my first major epiphany was when I stopped being a liberal and a progressive and a Democrat and became a conservative. That was the first one. This may be my second new awakening. What has occurred in the interim between the Biden administration coming into being and Donald Trump's reelection, I've had a complete reorientation of my worldview. I mean, everything has been turned upside down insofar as my perception of even reality itself.
Wow. To hear that from you is awesome. Talk to me.
But in my mind, I have not compromised my basic values and principles. They remain the same. I'm a conservative. I believe in the Constitution and the greatness of the United States. But there are dark currents at work that are demonic, diabolical, and evil, and they need to be rooted out. And I'm amazed that it's coming from a transactional pragmatist like Donald John Trump, because that's what he is. He's basically moderately conservative. He's mainly transactional and pragmatic, but he does have a solid moral core, at least insofar as what's best for the American people and this country. And he is enacting it now by exposing this unbelievably massive corruption that extends back. It's been going on in high gear since, of course, Barack Obama got elected, but it reaches apogee in the most corrupt and demonic administration in the history of the United States, the Biden administration. Yes. And I'm telling you, it is beyond imagining. And now that's a general statement, but when you go into the specifics of it, you literally have to say, how much time do I have to talk about it? There is so much.
I know, in such a short period of time.
Discount, right? You remember one thing I used to always discount and always just poo-poo on? I said, oh, CIA selling crack cocaine in Los Angeles. I don't know if you remember that, but I used to always say, there's no evidence to support, no substantial.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, even though there might be rogue players doing it, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that anymore. I'm completely open to the likelihood of it. I'm telling you now, the American people have been had. They've been had. We would not know any of this without Donald John Trump. This illegal alien invasion, and there's no other way to describe it, an illegal of unvetted people, complete abuses of the parole system, temporary protected status, or looking the other way, sex trafficking beyond belief of children. Countless by the United States government turning a blind eye to it, run by drug cartels and corrupt foreign governments, and our own corrupt players in the deep bureaucratic administrative state. Unelected bureaucrats who openly bragged about how they could subvert the agendas of elected officials in order to continue doing what they're doing, because they're a permanent class that is almost untouchable.
Unbelievable.
Oh no, I'm not. Hey man, I'm with a lot of people I would have called conspiracy theorists a few years ago, because we got the receipts now. We got the evidence. And wait till Martin Luther King comes out with the JFK and MLK tapes. They might want to repeal Martin Luther King's holiday. Because what's going to come out of him is not going to be pretty. And there's a lot of people out there in government who are going to be exposed, and there's going to be a lot of questions about JFK's assassination, probably even Malcolm X's, although I think that's a little bit less likely, but I'm not closing my mind to anything anymore. Not anything. I'm going to say, okay, you got yet to be proven, but I'm not going to automatically discount almost anything that's rational and reasonable anymore. I've seen things I never thought I would see exposed about the United States government. It's not really the United States government. It's a bunch of unelected people who are not accountable and don't have any real allegiance to the Constitution or to the American people or to its best interest. It is literally the deep state. And the locus of it all is the United States Agency for International Development, which has a surprisingly small budget considering the damage it's been able to do. It's only about $50-60 billion a year, even though that is more than both the State Department's budget and the CIA combined, but it's still not that big, relatively speaking, to the $3 trillion budget of the federal government. But what it does is it has an inordinate amount of control and influence over how funds, taxpayer funds, are dispersed and spread around the world, but particularly how they are sent to non-governmental organizations that do the bidding of USAID without them being able to say they're directly involved in it. Well, we're just giving money to Catholic charities, for instance, and they help to get illegal aliens in the country through the Darien Gap. I'm telling you, man, it is startling. It's the biggest story of all.
There's no movie that could have outdone this.
You see the Democrats, you see how hard the Democrats are fighting against Elon Musk and his minions having access to the Treasury Department and the information there, which is amazing, because the president is according to the Supreme Court, Department of the Navy versus Egan, Supreme Court ruling in 1988, is that the president of the United States has complete classification authority over every single scrap of information that is held by the executive branch. His power is plenary. The president makes the discretion who gets the information and who's allowed to see it. The president makes the information. Now, these people may be working for him in an advisory capacity, Doge and all these young boys and people he got working for him, these computer wizards and hacks. Okay, the president makes the final decision. They're advising him. He tells them, okay, I want you to look this over for me so I can help formulate policy for the executive branch. And now we got judges saying, well, because some 14 attorney generals in Democrat-run states are saying that these people might abuse the information, or they might sell it, or they might give it away. Therefore, we are going to interfere with the constitutional prerogatives of the President of the United States. That's literally basically the argument.
Amazing.
It is stunning what we're looking at here. The Democrats don't want to flush the liberals, the globalists, the corporatists, the people in the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, all these non-governmental organizations, the immigration lobby, the LGBTQIA Rainbow Bunch, all of them, they don't want the slush fund disturbed. Not little, trillions of dollars worth of money that the taxpayers did not authorize through their representatives. Trillions of dollars. I say minimum $2.7 trillion is being illegally and improperly dispersed around the world that was not being appropriated for the target it was budgeted to by the Congress of the United States, because that's where all the money is supposed to originate. It's the biggest embezzlement fraud in the history of the world, probably.
Or recorded history.
Yes, and this is where I don't think there's ever been a bigger embezzlement than what we're looking at now from our own goddamn government, or at least officials burrow deep into it that are not exposed to the sunlight. So, if you want to know what I've been thinking, that's what I've been thinking. I've been researching this, and I'm just flabbergasted with what I'm seeing.
Tell me something. What did you think about Biden, how he stepped away and it didn't go through the proper process to make Kamala Harris the proper Democratic candidate? And what did you think when you saw her fumbling and cackling, and what did you think about that whole thing? And not only that, what about the people who swore up and down that with nothing that she's done, that they thought that she was the best candidate, not because she had something solid or did anything, because all she did was open up the borders and let everybody come on in. That's like you having a security company where the guards that you put out there to guard businesses, you tell them, go home, we'll just leave the doors open. So what do you think about the people who are so behind her? For what reason? Or have they lost their mind? Donald Trump did more in the month, and it's not even been a month yet since he was elected, since he took office.
It's going to be 3 weeks till Monday.
Then they did, exactly. Then they did in the whole 4 years. Where are these people now?
Well, Wait a minute. You're wrong about that. They did more damage to the country than any previous probably presidential administration, single presidential administration in the history of the country. Now, as far as doing anything of note that was a positive benefit to the people of the United States, no, they did just about nothing. Nothing. But let me tell you about Kamala Harris, because this is really amazing. Here's the party of democracy, preaching to us about democracy and how important democracy is. And they put up a candidate who did not win a single vote in the primary, the Democratic primary. Not one. She didn't get any real votes until she ran for the presidency. They didn't have an open primary. They let the elite of the party select her as the presidential candidate when Joe Biden showed he was mentally insufficient and not even in charge of his own administration. And here's another thing about how corrupt she is. Now, look, I am grateful that she did not do this. Sarge, as a person, as an individual, as somebody who despises the Democrat Party and liberalism, loves it. Sarge is grateful that they did not do what I'm about to say, which they should have done. I'm grateful they didn't do it. But given the fact that they took an oath to the Constitution, and the 25th Amendment is in the Constitution, which allows for removal of a president who cannot discharge their duties properly. Now, in order to invoke that amendment, the removal of the president via the 25th Amendment, it requires both the vice president and the cabinet to initiate a vote on whether or not to remove him from office and state their reasons as to why they believe he or she is unfit to resume the offices of the duties of their office. And at that time, that person is removed from office. Now, the president can respond to that by writing a letter saying, though, in my opinion, I believe I am fit to resume control of my job, and I want to come back. And at that point, the president comes back. But then, if the cabinet and the vice president continue to stand to their belief that the president is unfit, it goes to Congress. And Congress takes a vote on whether or not to remove the president. That process has to be started. It can only be started by a joint action of the cabinet and the vice president. And it wasn't done. Why wasn't it done? Because of their their calculated political considerations and their moral cowardice. Because they've been telling us all along he was fit for duty, he was sharper than he ever was, and there was no reason to worry about his mental suitability. And they were lying to us, and they knew they were lying to us. And Kamala Harris led the charge because she's a corrupt, blithering idiot moron who can't even scream to death. She's got a bunch of words in search of a thought. That's the only way she can speak. She's totally unsuited for any job she's ever been elected to. But she had the resume, so she can say, I should be the queen, and I should be the one put in office. It was one of the most disgusting displays of political equivocation and moral vacuity I've ever seen in my life.
Preach.
Now, that's what I say about Kamala Harris. She's a moron, an imbecile, she's way in over her head, constantly cackling. I mean, has utterly no leadership ability whatsoever. What in God's name on the world stage would pay any attention to this woman other than the fact she happens to be the goofball who's the commander-in-chief with the job title? Good night. Can you imagine the nightmare that woman being in office for the United States?
What do you think about her passing herself forth as a black woman when she's Indian? What do you think about that?
You know the worst part of this? She's not a natural born citizen. She's probably an illegal alien. No, I'm not joking. I'm serious about heart attack.
But did you see Candace Owens' program about her?
You realize that when the president wrote this executive order revoking birthright citizenship, he described one of the categories of aliens whose children would not be eligible for birthright citizenship. When he described one of the categories he said is not eligible, he described Kamala Harris's birth status to a T. If this is upheld by the Supreme Court, you know it's going there. That's where it's going. And if they uphold President Trump's executive order, that means that Kamala Harris is an illegal alien. She's not even a 14th Amendment citizen, much less a natural-born one.
But wait a second. She was trying to say she's black, but she was saying she was Indian the whole time. And we bought it, not me.
I don't care about that. You know, that's indicative of her character. I mean, the fact she lied about it and tried to misrepresent it in all of her statements publicly, whenever she touted her ethnic background, the one she touted over and over and over and over again to the exclusion of all others was her Indian heritage. So, I mean, that just shows that her character. We already know she's got no goddamn character. That's just another a check mark in a long list of check marks that shows a woman is utterly characterless. But the thing that is that this is more crucial, though. Her eligibility to be president or vice president. You got to be a natural-born citizen. She's not even a 14th Amendment citizen. Now, remember, if you are a 14th Amendment citizen, that means you're not a natural-born citizen. It has to, because we had 25 presidents, 17 presidents before the 14th Amendment was passed. So clearly, the 14th Amendment has nothing to do with natural-born citizenship. The 14th Amendment wasn't passed in 1868. We had 17 presidents before that. 14th Amendment has nothing to do with Article 2, which details the qualifications to be president. But let's say that a 14th Amendment citizen is eligible, just hypothetically, which they're not. That means that Harris is not even a 14th Amendment citizen. Because her parents, her mother was here on a work visa, and her father was here on a student visa. They were here temporarily, on temporary visas. And that means that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to the children anymore, it would apply to the children of a diplomat. They were not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States in the meaning of the 14th Amendment, which means you have to be subject to the total jurisdiction, not the partial jurisdiction where you can't drive drunk. Okay, you can't drive drunk. Well, everybody can't drive drunk. But everybody can. You can't charge someone who's not a citizen with treason. You can't charge them with not complying with selective service laws, because they're not subject to the total jurisdiction of the United States. A permanent resident is someone who's got legal permanent residence, because they can be drafted into the armed forces, even though they're not citizens. Thousands of them were drafted in the armed forces in World War I and World War II, and they were not citizens. They were permanent legal residents. They had legal status to live here permanently, as long as they behaved in certain ways. They could stay here permanently. They were permanently domiciled. That meant they were subject to the jurisdiction, just like slaves. Slaves might not have been citizens. Slaves didn't have any rights, but they were always subject to the jurisdiction thereof of the United States, as it says in the 14th Amendment. That's why the 14th Amendment applied to newly freed slaves. They were always subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. They were mentioned in the 3/5 clause that everybody bitches about all the time. Slaves were considered from the very beginning of the Constitution. But not people are here on temporary visas. She's an illegal alien. They let her take the oath of office to be vice president.
You're right.
I'm telling you, Donald Trump is just breaking. He's like a bull in a china. He's breaking all these sacred cows, these China sacred cows up, flashing around in the China shop. But he's doing it with purpose. He's had 4 years to think about what they did to him. With these malicious persecutions, and they weren't prosecutions, they were persecutions, done by the Democrat stooges in Manhattan, New York, Pat Alvin Bragg, in Fonnie Willis, and Letitia James, with that Attorney General that got off. By the way, Kathy Hochul and Letitia James being sued by the Department of Justice for giving sanctuary to illegal aliens. And I think they got a damn good case, although it's not a slam dunk. They got a damn good case. And then, of course, Jack Smith with his bogus thing, with the classified documents thing, and that that crazy woman, E.G. Carroll, with her claim of being sexually abused in an apartment store and nobody saw them. But he's still one of the biggest celebrities in the world at that time, and nobody remembers seeing him in the store on that day. And she wins a lawsuit just because New Yorkers tend to hate Donald Trump, and you know you're going to find a jury there that's going to convict them on any opportunity they get. Just like with the made-up case with Alvin Bragg. Man, I'm telling you, I've never seen any of that. We are living through epic moments, and it's beautiful to see. And his ascendant, his triumph, coming back from assassination attempt that elevated him as an icon in the eyes of most voters. That man is not courageous. You know what I think he is, Lance? I think he's fearless. Mm-hmm. I don't think he knows fear. I really do. I never said, there's not many people that you can say that about, because I know I get scared. I'm in combat in 3 wars, and I'm scared the whole goddamn time. Wow. But I don't think this man will be scared. I don't think this man knows about fear. I really don't.
Serious.
And that's a rare quality. There are not many people in the world like that. So it's not correct that you call him brave. He's just fearless. What other major political figure do you think could possibly withstand everything they threw against them and still be in the limelight? And not only that, be ascendant. It's one of the most astonishing political stories in the history of the United States. Abraham Lincoln I don't think he had this much thrown against him as Donald Trump has.
Serious.
In triumph.
And it's just the beginning. You got 4 years of it now.
Yeah, and man, the opposition's every bit as fierce. They're like cornered rats. That's why they're burying their fangs. They're like cornered rats.
So what do you think about?
Right now. Listen to Maxine Waters. It's only 70. She let the cat out of the bag without wanting to do so. She did. But listen to this. This tells you what they're afraid of. People of this country are being violated because all of our privacy is being taken up by Elon Musk and Trump, and we don't know what all they have on us. We don't know what all they have on us. That's all you know. She let the cat out of the bag in her, but she knows how crooked she is. I mean, did you see that spectacle in front of the Department of Education building with the security guard, and they got all these Democrat members of the House of Representatives, the United States Congress, acting like a bunch of school kids, got out the clown car in the circus, demanding he let them in the building because they're congressmen. And he's got orders from the President of the United States who he takes his orders from. Because remember, everybody working in the executive branch works for him. Everybody. They don't work for Congress. They don't work for Congress. Even though Congress gives them their budget, Congress has oversight over the executive branch. I understand that. They do, and they should. But people working in the executive don't take their orders from take it from the president. The president ordered not to let anyone in the building. Nobody. Not even the congressman. And instead of doing what they have the power under the Constitution to do, which is make a committee, get a vote out of committee to do whatever, subpoena people, get them under oath, make a law, whatever. They didn't do that. They wanted to put on a little show with a bunch of demagoguery and try to intimidate a relatively low-level federal employee out of not doing his job. It was a disgrace, and that fool Maxine Waters was right at the front of the bunch. These Democrats are as bad as it gets. They are vile, vulgar, nasty, evil as hell, and they support every form of degeneracy on the planet. Say nothing to killing babies. They just can't wait to kill as many babies as they can. Patricia James ran. When she was running for Attorney General, she out there and bragged about how she had the boy. She said she was proud she killed her baby. I don't know if you remember that, but I can get it for you and let you listen to it. She gave a campaign speech. Speaking of her pride, not a regret. Well, you know, I regret that I tweeted, but at the time I thought it was necessary. I can understand her saying it, even though I don't agree with it. But no, she boasted of it. People are evil.
Wow.
Evil. And I'll tell you one thing, man. I am so glad to see what's happening to them now, the state of incipient panic, man. It's really going to be fascinating to watch the level of the resistance and the manner in which they're going to put it out. I mean, look, what kind of a party runs on the idea of encouraging mentally ill people to sexually mutilate themselves, to say nothing of
For real.
Talk about the madness of the corrupt Democrat Party, which is a political home to degeneracy, dysfunction, and insanity. And they're actually running on two issues that ought to just appall every right-thinking person. Number one, the unrestricted right to kill babies at any point of gestation, from 0 to 9 months. That's one of the platforms they were running on. It's worse than slavery. That is worse than slavery, in my opinion. That is worse. And number two, the right of minors to be able to bypass their parents or guardians.
Man, unbelievable.
To be able to elect, to remove healthy, normally developed sexual, primary and secondary sexual organs because they're at odds with those things, and they have the chromosomes to warrant them having them in the first place biologically. Their minds are at war with healthy parts of their bodies. That to me is a sign of mental illness in and of itself. Nothing else needs to be disturbed. The only question is, where on the spectrum of mental illness is it? Is it a low-level mental illness or is it a high-level mental illness? And of course, that will depend depending upon the individual. But I don't think there could be any doubt that it is. But yet, this is one of the planks of the Democratic Party. One of the primary things they were running to be elected for. Insane. Now, notice I didn't even make a religious argument there. And the religious argument is every bit as strong as that ration, scientific, cultural argument. You know, medical, social, cultural argument. You know, no healthy mind looks at normal parts of a person's anatomy and wants to amputate it. You don't look at your arm and your arm's working right there. Oh, I think I need to have my arm amputated. I want to be an amputee. Somebody say, you're mentally ill. We can't, but for just reasons of cultural Marxism and political correctness and DEI, this insane, corrupt concept, degenerate concept, we've got to pretend it's normal. And if you say anything against it, you're a bigot. We are living in crazy times like never before in the history of mankind.
Oh, man, it's good to hear from you, man. I every day with this thing going on, I said I would love to hear what Sarge is saying about this. And the funny thing, too, did you hear when Kamala Harris said that she has a desire to help those who are incarcerated in California get their sex change operations?
Yes.
What happened to people? There's no outrage on that. I mean, like, what kind of zombified people?
There was at the polls. Oh, yes, there was. The press doesn't, they got to understand. Haven't you seen what the USAID thing is revealing about payments going out to media outlets from the United States government to peddle the United States government and party line, depending upon who happens to be in charge of the levels of power? Haven't you seen that?
Yeah.
That's why the media selectively decides what information needs to get to the public. It's not like the old media that we don't report relatively objectively what it was they wanted to cover and all that, but they'll decide not to cover. They'll say the American people weren't outraged, but that's probably the reason because they don't want to be seen as bigots. So American people are just fine with giving prisoners a sex change operation. They're just fine with that. American people are fine with that. I mean, they're open-minded and understanding. No, American people are not open-minded about that. That's one of the things that I'm sure that cost her millions of votes nationwide. American people let it be known they didn't want to be that. The polls consistently show this over and over and over again. The two biggest things that American people are worried about are unfettered illegal immigration, the economy, and this LGBTQIA madness. And the Democrats are on the wrong side of all three. Three biggest things that brought people to the polls.
Yep. Unbelievable.
Well, the American people ain't one fool about this. They can look at this lunatic woman. I talk about my school buses and, you know, Venn diagrams and all other madness, incoherent madness she talks. Did you see the way 60 Minutes selectively edited that interview to make it look like she gave a coherent answer to the question of illegal immigration?
I didn't get a chance to see that. I see it, I saved it, and I haven't gone back to it yet, but I definitely want to take my time. And you see how they edit things up? How much they... Look, she would have been... There's no way. There's no way. She better run and hide, and she still ends up owing money from the campaign. Where did it go?
To Megan Thee Stallion and Beyonce and Oprah Winfrey and all these stars that put it on. That's where it went.
But what an insult to black people in America that they think that they can just get some woman up there to shake her behind oh God, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, Beyonce took the money and ran. She didn't even perform. But why? Why entertainers who are not worth anything of moral value? Why? Like
bread and circuses are the stock and trade of the Democrat Party. We're literally looking at a party that's wedded to the Neo-Orlean philosophy of bread and circuses. That's what they wanted to give. They thought that was a substitute for solid policy analysis and decisive executive action that would lead to the benefit of the American people and security of the nation. They actually believed it. Now, Donald Trump had his little theatrical shows, too. You know, the garbage truck, doing the thing in McDonald's and all that. But you can believe in between all of those things was solid policy analysis, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do when he got in office. He didn't waste a day. He's been working diligently, doing exactly what he promised the voters that voted for him that he would do. You realize how many foreign policy triumphs he's had already with regard to illegal immigration? He didn't kick Mexico's ass. He didn't kick Colombia's ass. He kicked Venezuela's ass. He got El Salvador on board saying, hey, if these other countries want to take their own citizens back, we'll take them over here. You just pay us to house them. We'll take them off your hands, Mr. President. He got that done right away just by threatening, he didn't have to get one new law passed. He had to get no new budget appropriations, no nothing. All he had to say is, I'm President of the United States. I got charged of terrorists. Mr. Colombian President, if you don't take your own damn criminal citizens back, I'm going to slap a 25% tariff on your goods right there and right there. And after a week, it's going to be 50%. And since your economy, 38% of your economy is reliant on the American consumer market, that's going to cripple your economy and send you into a tailspin. And you know what? The next day, that son of a bitch sent his own plane, his own presidential plane, to pick up illegals and bring them back to Colombia. Gustavo Petro is the man's name, and I read this defiant letter he wrote. He's talking about we have the blood of not only conquistadors, but of Indians who resisted the conquistadors. I don't like oil. I don't like white supremacy, people trying to bully me around, blah, 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 and all this stuff. Oh, he was all those IOs. Until Trump said, okay, you can feel that way, but you wait and see the economic pinch I'm about to put on your ass. And lo and behold, he changed like a cheap suit. And the same thing with Mexico. Telling Mexico, hey, Mexico, you either deploy your troops to the border to stop this drug trafficking in our country and the illegal sex trafficking, the hundreds of thousands of children, 350,000 children that the Border Patrol and Customs and ICE had taken custody of to have delivered to some sponsor here in the country. And now they don't know where they are. They cannot contact them. They are either being sex trafficked. And you better believe people like Oprah Winfrey are behind this stuff. People like her in Hollywood, the P. Diddy thing, all that stuff is real now. This Democrat Party is abominably degenerate and evil.
An embarrassment.
And they count this 350,000 children unaccounted for. The people they supposed to send to, they go to the address looking for the children to check on their welfare, see how they're doing after they've been released and they don't know where they are. They can't account for any of 350,000 children and minors.
It would be bad if it was 350, much less 350,000.
350,000. That's your government admitting to this. We can't find them. We don't know where they are. Now, if it was legit, you would know the people they're supposed to have gone to. You go to the address, you go right there to the house, and look at the kids, see how kids doing. Okay, great, city's doing okay, and you're getting along well in school. Yeah, good, okay, well, good. We're glad to know that. We'll be on our way now. Thank you very much. No, they can't find them. The place they claim that they were being sent to, they don't know where they are. They're either sex trafficked or they're doing child labor, or both. And Donald Trump, without the election of Donald Trump, it would have been business as usual.
And getting worse.
Do you realize what they just came up, the Congressional Budget Office just admitted to the other day? See, that's why I say we got receipts now. I ain't got to speculate. This is now the Congressional Budget Office is saying that $516 billion in appropriations. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is $500 billion, brother. But they are saying $516 billion, $500 billion in appropriations was either let through expired appropriations without any more authority, some going back 30 and 40 years, or ones that were never had a proper appropriations approval in the first place. $516 billion.
Crazy.
This is your government. This is our tax money. And you know, a lot of it was spent to finance the Euromaidan color revolution in 2014 that overthrew, through the USAID and the State Department, in 2014, back in the Obama administration, that overthrew Viktor Yanukovych, who was an ally of President Putin. He was an ally of Putin, and he was democratically elected. They didn't find any fraud in the election. He was elected because there's a strong, particularly there's a strong ethnic Russian component in the population of Ukraine, and they liked the guy because he had this alliance with Putin. But the world globalists and the European Union and all the people behind the Biden administration, the Obama administration, didn't like that. So they decided they were going to overthrow him and finance his opposition in this country through the color revolution and the Euromaidan. The Maidan protest is the name of a square where hundreds of thousands of people gathered. There was a big disturbance. Over 100 people got killed in the disturbance. But it led to the ousting of Yanukovych. He fled the country and is now living in Russia. And that led to the election of Zelensky. Zelensky was a guy who was compatible with the European Union and the globalists, and he actually want to keep the COVID gain of function labs going in Ukraine and all this contractor money they've been pouring in Ukraine and all that. And Zelensky was their guy. So we literally helped to finance the Russian war because, number one, it made Putin nervous. Look, I don't like Putin. I don't like Russia either, the Russian Federation either. But every country's got national security interests. I don't care what it is. Everyone. And every country is legitimate to have legitimate national security interests. One of them is the border of Russia with Ukraine. The border of Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine is an ideal invasion corridor to invade Russia. I mean, it used to be part of the Soviet USSR. Remember that. It was part of USSR. And the Nazis invaded there in 1941, and it was an ideal country for armor to just smash through. That's why they were getting all those victories against the Soviets in 1941. They had taken 3.5 million Russian prisoners and wiped out 6 Russian armies. Not just divisions, Russian armies. They wiped out 6 of them by the fall of 1941, coming down the Ukrainian corridor. You know, it is the heartland of Ukraine. Most of the battles are fought in Ukraine, but they did breach the Russian border. And Ukraine is ideal tank country. It's flat. As long as it ain't raining, you can make great headway through the open steppes of Ukraine. And he was worried about NATO expanding to his border. The United States wasn't going to put up with ballistic missiles in Cuba 90 miles off our shore. Ukraine's border abuts Russia's. They want the Dnieper River at least as a natural barrier. And right now they've taken it. They've taken the Donbass region, which is Lugansk and Donetsk. And those 2 regions are east of the Dnieper River, which is a natural barrier between western Ukraine and eastern Ukraine. And those oblasts, what they call like provinces or states, those 2 Lugansk, Donetsk, and then of course there's Crimea, and they want the land bridge to the Kerch Peninsula because they want to retain that too, so they can have access to a warm water port, the port of Sebastopol. So they got national security concerns, just like every other country. And here we are talking about expanding NATO into Ukraine. And that was the last straw for the Russians, along with the fact that the Ukrainians, since the 2014 Euromaidan revolution, have been having a bloody civil war in the Donbass, particularly in Lugansk. Very bloody fighting. Thousands of ethnic Russians have been killed. Because remember, that region is mostly ethnic Russian. They identify as Russian in those regions, even though it is part of Ukraine. And Ukraine Kiev-backed militias in the Donbass have been killing thousands of Russian civilians, thousands, since 2014. Maybe 50 or 60,000 or more before Russia launched the invasion in February of 2021, 21. So I'm just saying that even though I don't like Russia, I still don't think that justified their invasion of Ukraine. But I can certainly see their point of view, and we don't need to be involved in any of it, no matter what you think about it. We don't have any defense treaties with Ukraine or any defense agreement. Here's what the problem was, man. Back in 1993, Bill Clinton, under the Budapest Memorandum, in connection with Russia and the European Union, got Ukraine to give up all their nuclear weapons. That was a big mistake, because that guarantee you, Putin would not be invading Ukraine if they still had their nuclear weapons. It's back in Budapest. They signed the Budapest Memorandum, and Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons. And boy, if they hadn't done that, I guarantee you, Russia would not be invading them.
Wow. And see,
here we are. They're trying to get us involved in a land war in Ukraine, because Zelensky has already said there is no way possible we're going to regain this lost territory without outside help. Now, where do you think that outside help is going to come from? NATO. European Union don't want to fight. You'll see GIs over there going against a Russian army, now a combat-hardened army that's learned a lot from their mistakes in this war. And even though I think that the Russians will probably lose against the combined might of NATO and the United States, it would be bloody, and we wouldn't get out of it unscathed. Do you want that? Do you want to go fight a land war in Eastern Europe? I don't.
Of course not.
Shit, man. I remember when I was in Germany in 3rd Armored Division, and I was in an M60 tank on a border, Fulda Gap, Czech border, opposite the 4th Ukrainian Guards Tank Army. That was part of the Warsaw Pact then, because the USSR was still existed as a nation. Union Soviet Socialist Republic, and Ukraine, of course, was one of the constituent elements of that. And then when the Warsaw Pact, and they told us that if they were going to invade, the Warsaw Pact invaded us through the Fulda Gap. They expected my outfit to be wiped out or combat ineffective within 2 weeks. They had a bunch of phase lines we were going to fall back to, while we tried to attrit the invading Russian armor and all their mechanized infantry and everything else they're going to throw at us. And we tricked them as much as we could till we were about to get overwhelmed and get encircled. And then we go back to another phase line and try to trick them some more and fall back to another third. I think it was 3 or 4 phase lines we're going to fall back to. If we hadn't got reinforcement, I think we were going to be done. It wasn't going to be no Dunkirk or nothing. We were going to be dead. I'll never forget that. They told us we were going to be wiped out or combat ineffective within 2 weeks if we're lucky. No, I don't want to see American troops going there and dying over there in Europe, in Eastern Europe. And I don't want to waste any more money. Zelensky said he cannot, out of the $180 billion allocated to Ukraine, he only got $80 billion of it. He don't know where the other $100 billion went. You know where it went. USAID diverted that money to their pet projects, their pet non-governmental organizations, and all sorts of other things around the world without authorization from Congress. They just took it upon themselves to send it where they needed to send it to further their own aims. This is big. What's happening now is huge, Brother Lance.
It
enormous.
is.
If any of the things that you were saying to me back then that I kind of poo-pooed, I'm not doing anymore.
Well, tell me, what do you think the future holds with the tensions in the world and the threat of war? And if there was a war, how would it be carried out, you think? Because you have a background in this, so...
Well, who are the players in this war? Then I could give you a better idea. I mean, so let's face it, the major players are the big three: China, United States, and Russia Federation. Those are the big three as far as military power and projection goes. So, if you're talking about a war, but with those three combatants involved, China and Russia are going to be on one side. Right now, they have the BRICS alliance, which is, the BRICS alliance is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They're looking for an economic alternative to the United States as a reserve currency of the world.
Yes.
Now, think of what that would mean if that happens for our economy.
Collapse.
One thing that props up the dollar is the fact that the world considers it the most stable currency in the world, and that's why everybody uses it as their reserve currency. Almost everybody, anyway. Now they're looking for an alternative. And I think it's safe to say one or more of those countries would be allied with Russia and China. So I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I say, look, one thing I love about President Trump, not one new war in the entire 4 years of his presidency. He's got to be the first president since...
You read about that?
Herbert Hoover. Yeah, I think he's the first president since Herbert Hoover, who hadn't gotten us involved in some new conflict somewhere in the world. Yep, Herbert Hoover. Okay, got Herbert Hoover. Then Franklin Roosevelt. We don't need to talk about that. Truman, we had Korean War. Then we had Eisenhower. He got involved. Well, Eisenhower, no, Eisenhower kept us. Okay, Eisenhower didn't. Because since Eisenhower, every other president has gotten us involved in a world war. I mean, not world war, but in some sort of conflict somewhere in the world.
Right.
And here, except for Trump, first one to come along and not do it. And they want to accuse him of being Adolf Hitler.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. You know, I'm proposing a law. Someone should pass a law where anyone who calls someone a Nazi or Adolf Hitler inappropriately, without the actual description being factually and historically accurate, should have either a severe fine or jail time. Because I'm getting sick of it.
Exactly.
I mean, I spent a long time studying the Third Reich and Nazism, and I understand what it is. I understand the history and everything it did. And even the Nazis weren't representative of all forms of fascism. I mean, the Italian fascists had Jews on their Grand Council. They didn't round up Jews and put them in camps, even under Mussolini. So, I mean, you know, every fascist doesn't have death camps like that. I mean, Pinochet was a fascist. He didn't have death camps, even though he went after communists. You know, I mean, fascism has different flavors, just like a lot of other things do. And Nazism was what they call National Socialism. Key word being socialism. They weren't conservatives. They were very radical. There was nothing conservative about Nazism. They opposed every conservative institution in Germany. They opposed the Prussian Junkers, the military class. They opposed the church. They opposed the educational establishment. And the conservative political parties like that were represented by Ebert and what's his name, the finance minister, Gustav Schacht. There was nothing conservative about the Nazis. They were radicals. They just went to the right of communists. That's all. That's about the most conservative thing said, but they weren't as far left as communists were, but they were leftists. So anyway, they just throw out that word just to see if it'll stick. They don't know anything about what they don't know what the word they're saying means. Now, how can a man who wants to decentralize governmental power and leave it to the states, how can they be a fascist? The whole point of being a fascist is you employ corporate power and government power, and you have the government direct the output of private corporations. Stay in private hands, but they direct its output and where the resources go. That's what fascism is, basically. It's oversimplification. That's basically what it is. Donald Trump is doing everything that's kind of the opposite of that. He's privatizing everything.
Well, people run with what they hear from the media. They hear it and they run with it, because when they hear something spoken over the media with a modicum of conviction, they think it's real. They don't do their research. They don't have any knowledge. Look, you've been in the military. You've been in law enforcement. You have a direct knowledge of these things, and you study it and know it for longer than most of us have been alive. See, so I kind of think you might know a little something about this, as opposed to these youngsters and people who, you know, they live a nondescript life. They're not passionate about anything. They're sucking up what is put out, the trash on the media. And even since myself moving out here to Ghana and Africa, the things that I'm reading and seeing and the people I talk to, it's a whole different perspective than what's put out over there. You got, even if you don't travel the world or have your experience, talk to people and have multiple sources of engagement to talk to people with different perspectives. Remember, most Americans go home, sit down in front of the TV, or they get on YouTube, they go for the lower vibrational stuff, but they don't really seek out to hear people across the board. And their viewpoints are narrow, and they'll argue with you about it.
Yeah, well, I don't have a problem with people arguing a point of view with me that's completely diametrically opposed to mine. The only thing I object to is when they're losing the argument, they start calling you names and insulting you.
Well, not only that, Sarge, but I mean, you don't mind them debating with you, but you're going to slash them like you always would on these shows that we did, because they don't have the real knowledge behind it. They get emotional, they run with something, and they don't know what they're running with. And now, where are all these people who supported Kamala Harris and all that foolishness, now that all of this stuff is coming out, for the time that they were in there and beyond, where are they? Where are they? Where are all these people who made noise? Where are they?
Well, you know, rather than be contrite and admit where they're wrong, is I started off the show telling you now why I've had to reassess so many things that I didn't want to believe before, or didn't believe, simply because I didn't think that the claims were proven. And I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong, because not everybody's going to be right about everything. And that's all. There's always new evidence that is found to make you reassess something you thought you knew before. It's like during World War II. They did not declassify the ultra intercepts because the Allies were reading the German communications in real time. They had broken the German Enigma code, which seemed to be impossible to break because it could break down a message into billions of combinations that could completely selected at random. And they thought that was absolutely, the Germans just knew it was an absolutely unbreakable code. Well, again, if you first you don't succeed, try again.
Yeah. I got to make a long distance phone call in about 15 minutes. So let's wrap it down. But this was powerful, man. And we got to do this on a regular because things are happening too fast, man. I really appreciate the time and the experience and the willingness to share it as you've always done. And even when you said you had to change a lot of things, really your trajectory has remained consistent, and it shows your character that you can even say, hey, you know, now I have receipts to say this, but I couldn't really go into conspiracy stuff in the beginning. But like I said, it doesn't surprise me. I knew every word that you said. I knew you would feel this way. And it's an honor and a pleasure, man. I mean, you're a real gem. And I've always said that, and I've never held back publicly. I've always said that. whether other people who are like flotsam and jetsam would say yay or nay. I don't change. Even if we didn't agree on anything, I know you walked the path more than me. And the longer I live this life is the more I see that you're correct. And I'm not brown nosed, and I'm telling you the truth, because, you know, I don't hold back either, but I don't speak on things I don't know. So thanks for the sharing of the information. But give us a few more minutes and wrap it down and make a few more, make some projections also on what you feel the way things might go.
Well, I appreciate your kind and considered words, Lance. You're a scholar and a gentleman yourself. And the reason I like talking to you is because we frequently do not agree. Although we agree more often than I would expect. And but you're like me. You believe clarity is more important than agreement, and that's all that matters.
Yes.
Vigorous, reasoned discussion, even debate and argument. But at the end of the day, it's allowing people to hear viewpoints and to let them decide what is the best course of action or the wisest policy or philosophy. And hey, that's all I ever ask for. I don't need no agreement. All I need to do is hear me out. And don't distort what I say. And I promise you I won't distort what you say, because I know I don't need to win an argument.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, just
what was the question you just asked?
No, just give a few projections and kind of tie it all in, even though it's hard to tie in all these different things, but give us a few, projections on what you see that maybe the masses may not see, or what you see that the media is turning us away from, things to look out for in the next few weeks.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I think you're going to see the resistance amping up its efforts, not necessarily the rank and file, because they've always had their shock troops they can reliably count on to do damage. It doesn't take that many. It takes a few thousand here and there. They can do any sorts of damage by ordering their little fanatical shock troops out to do whatever they need to do. We're going to see, and I mean that in all aspects of shock troop, from people who just raise a ruckus to people who do things that are far more serious. And I'll let you fill in the blank on that. But I think we're going to see much more to what's going on, because what has been in the dark is now being revealed. And there's a lot of money. There are literally billions, if not trillions of dollars at stake in this. So what we're going to see outright, all-out determined effort to maintain and prevent these rice bowls from being broken. They don't want their rice bowls broken. With this much money at stake, you better believe the stakes are as high as it's possible to get. We're going to see that, and I cannot predict the outcome. I'm afraid to do it. I never thought I'd see what I'm seeing right now. All this stuff coming out to light. So I'm afraid to make any predictions about anything right now, but I know this much. It's going to be fierce, it's going to be unrelenting, and it's only going to grow. And it needs to happen whatever the outcome. So I think we're going to be, as Chinese say, we're going to be living in the most interesting of times, and we should all be prepared to batten down the hatches and ride it out, or pick a side, get involved with it, and give it your all. Because a lot of us are not going to be able to avoid these tidal waves that are going to be sweeping over this country and the world.
Beautifully spoken. Thank you so much, Sarge. I'm going to give it a week. I'm going to watch the news. I'm going to try to reach out to you, and always reach out to me when you want to have something to say. I'm like a fireman here waiting for you, man. So this is what I do, as always, over the years. So I really appreciate this and the energy and what you're putting into it. I do have one more quick question that you can answer in 90 seconds. I can't let you go without asking you on this one. The assassination attempt of Donald Trump. What do you think about that? Now that we see what's happening with him draining the swamp, do you think it may be a faction of people who were fearing that? Or what did you think when this first happened? And now what do you think now that you see what he's doing?
Look, Donald Trump is one of the most consequential presidents in the history of the United States. Now, consequences doesn't necessarily mean good consequences. In his case, I do think it's going to be overwhelmingly more positive than negative, but he's certainly consequential. No consequential president is ignored. The most consequential presidents we've had are the ones that get assassinated, in case you didn't notice. Lincoln, McKinley, Kennedy, People were threatening to make changes that were significant. Garfield, he was going after the civil service system, and a disgruntled civil servant assassinated him. So, being consequential, I think it is inevitable that he's going to be the targets of these sorts of things. He's not a caretaker president by any means. He's not there. He was not elected to supervise the decline of the United States like every president since Bill Clinton has been done. Maybe George H.W. Bush, but certainly since Bill Clinton, all of them have been elected to oversee the decline of the United States. Every subsequent president to Ronald Reagan has been there for that purpose, to manage our decline. Well, Donald Trump is determined to reverse it, and I think in view of that fact, he is going to be a target for much more of this, either figuratively or literally. They're not through making up things about him like they try to do with lawfare. Lawfare didn't get rid of him. Of course, they're likely to go to the next step. So we'll just have to take a wait-and-see attitude. That's why he's got to get the best Secret Service he can possibly have. No damn DEI. They all better be at the top of the game to make sure this man can at least get through the next 4 years.
I agree. Sarge, thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you again. I don't want to wear out my welcome, but I do want to talk to you very soon again, because you know I can listen to you all night.
I miss you, man. I wonder how you've been doing. I'm glad to hear you're doing so. It sounds like you're a cock of the walk on top of the world, man. It's all good.
Yes.
I'm really glad to hear it.
Say it again?
I said I'm glad to hear it.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad I made these moves. I'm very happy. I'm the happiest I've been. Not that I was walking around sad or anything, but I'm still concerned about what goes on in America. Even though I'm in Ghana and I got my Ghanaian citizenship and passport and Ghana card, all of that. I have dual citizenship now, but I'm a global citizen. And I was born and raised in America, and that's the place that formulated me into who I am now. And it doesn't stop my concern, even though I'm here in paradise. You see, so I'm still with you in that, brother.
Yeah, good, great. And I got no problem with dual citizenship, but just remember one thing about dual citizenship. The citizenship laws of whichever country you're a citizen of will be the ones that will prevail, will be the ones that's got control of your booty at the time they're invoked. So it depends on where your feet are located when that citizenship claim comes up. Just remember that.
No problem. I know I'm going to be well informed talking to you.
Plan accordingly. And remember, plan accordingly based on that, because every country holds dearly to its citizenship laws. All of them do. United States, Nigeria, Ghana, Luxembourg, Monaco, Belgium, all of them. Citizenship is a big deal for most countries, and like I said, what applies will apply where your behind is located.
That's why I chose this place.
Other than perhaps diplomatic initiatives done on your behalf by your respective foreign embassies or State departments.
Yes. This is very much a friendly place to welcome Americans on in. And what people don't know is that for me, it's kind of a who you know kind of thing. But, someone from the president's cabinet that worked directly under him called me. That's what impressed me. So all I've done online, it helped me. I'm sitting here minding my business and I got a phone call from someone who worked directly under the president. So that was good enough to tell me, wow, either way, you're being watched. And they felt that that would be a plus. Many other people got their citizenship, but mine came from that. And the call came the day after YouTube took my channel down. I almost had 6,000 videos on there, but somebody observed and good came out of that. So sometimes things can happen to you negative, but all I've done was shot up like a flare. And the day after, and he didn't say that, but that's what it was. How else did he know me? You know what I mean? So you got to keep doing what you're doing and keep swinging. Listen, you're a fighter in your heart and you're a fighter for real physically. You know the deal. Unbroken spirit, keep throwing punches, Even if you're wounded, your nose is busted, your lip is swollen, keep throwing punches, keep being determined. And with that type of spirit, I agree with you. I'm the same way. I know you've done more than me, but I'm right behind you in that department. So that's why I appreciate you so much. And if I ever had to go to war, I'd want you by my side.
You're still doing your artistic endeavors, aren't you?
Say it again?
You're still doing your artistic endeavors, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Now I have all the time in the world to do all of it now. Writing, drawing, all of that stuff. Oh, God,
when are you going to open the gallery? When are you going to open the gallery?
That's going to come very soon. I want to come with some new pieces. I just want to time myself and give myself maybe for each piece, maybe a month or two, and let a year go by. And there are people who have been talking to me out here about that. I know people who have galleries, and I want to come out with the new stuff, and it's going to be even more hard hitting. And I have the time to do that. I designed this house myself. There's balconies all around. This is my dream home. It came from the heart. I'm into traffic flow and privacy. When you come here, you're going to love it. And I couldn't ask. I'm at peace from within. I mean, look, if you can walk around 95% of your property nude and nobody on the outside see you, you're doing good. I'll leave it at that. Me in the sunlight, vitamin D.
You know what around noon, man? You better watch out for them mosquitoes out there. I know they carry malaria. Make sure you got a lot of you got to give them a big target, man, to go after, your blood supply.
Lancescurv.com. Bold, raw, and uncut.